eating or getting dressed up or eating your bat-shaped cupcakes, whatever you've been up to. But tonight it's getting very serious indeed, and very serious for me. Something that I've always been a little bit reluctant to do because of my own personal family history and how people have lost their lives in my family line doing this kind of thing. I'm heading into a very dangerous place on Nightowls, Britain's most listened to. We're heading south to an exceedingly dark place, and we hope you're going to come with us. Alan Robsons Nightowls, Halloween.
Views of the coal mine depict the scene of the terrible pit disaster involving such tragic loss of life. A big explosion in the early hours of the morning occurred when 400 men were working below. Of these, 200 men were able to make their escape to the surface at once, but the remainder were trapped, and it is from these victims that the ghastly death roll is composed. The exact figures cannot yet be accurately computed, but the scene at the pit head, as news is anxiously awaited, tells its own story. The deepest sympathy is extended to the bereaved from the whole country.
They perished underground in a series of devastating methane gas explosions. The day after the first blast, 27 rescuers were also killed when they ventured underground.
Some were entombed more than 40 hours, threatened by mud and poison gas. It's not easy to imagine what they endured. To wait and hope in the dark, 700 feet below ground. To see safety beckon, and then learn that poison bars the way. Can it be that their sacrifice, their suffering had to be, to claim the attention of the whole country to the plight of miners and the mining industry?
Hundreds killed, the youngest just 10 years old.
Perhaps in the light of this tragedy, we shall remember them. They must not be forgotten men.
A Halloween Ghost Hunt with Alan Robson.
Well, as you can tell, I'm in a car. Now, usually at this particular time on a Halloween, I'm really looking forward to placing some listeners into a dark place. Tonight, well, we had planned to do precisely that. And then our contact said, because of how much activity there'd been over the last couple of weeks, that he was only going to allow one person in there. So I said, well, let's let it be a listener. And then Tony, Hollywood McShane, producer of The Stars, says, well, it has to be you then. If it's that active, you can't just put somebody underground for 3 or 4 hours and leave them there. It was going to have to be you. Now, how long did George say that it was likely I'd be in there for?
Well, he said it's a pretty active place, so if you last 10 minutes, would be lucky.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm going to take that challenge on all day long. And I've read up about this place. I know it possibly better than George does now. I've learnt so much. I'm going to be telling you about it as we go. I've got certain places where we're going to be illustrating the life and times of so many people from our part of the world, the amazingly brave and courageous miners that built this land, from the Scottish borders all the way down to Yorkshire. And it's Yorkshire where I am tonight. We've just travelled through Teesside, heading to Yorkshire. Can't tell you where because they don't want people climbing all over the place, especially when dozens of the people that maintain this property, some of them have quit because of things that have happened to them. People have been scratched, people have been pushed, people have been tripped up and have really hurt themselves quite badly. One guy experienced a broken arm when something just moved and hit him. People see figures here. It seems that what's in this place has no fear of being witnessed. In fact, they rather seem to like it. We're talking about a mine. I'm going a long way down towards the core of the earth, where people would hack a living for themselves, breathing in the foul air and shrinking their life from that of a 70 or 80-year-old to commonly dying, aged between 35 and 50. My old grandfather died of monoconiosis after breathing in so much black filth. My great-great-great-grandfather died in an explosion in a colliery up in Concert just after the turn of the century. So my family's got business here, and a dirty, ugly and bloody business it is too. And yet all over the country there's stories. There's one called the Fighting Ghost of Tundu, a disused colliery in Yangsandre. It's near Bridgend. And in 1904, workmen in Fellinfach saw a tall ghost shrouded in white, and it glided towards them and then said nothing, just stared at them, and obviously they're staring back. And then the ghost simply said, "Boo!" And the guys just turned and ran. Not long after that, another man saw exactly the same figure on a lonely, narrow road next to the abandoned colliery. It ran up to him, gripped him by both arms until he couldn't breathe, and then it glided away with just a hollow laugh. Now, people might think these miners are making it up. Well, these people are hard as nails, really tough men. They don't make up these kind of stories, not a story that would see them lampooned as soon as they got back home. At the Magpie mine in Bakewell in Derbyshire, a survey team in the mine spotted a man holding a candle walking down the shaft. They took a photograph of him, and just as they took the photograph, the man disappeared. Yet they can see on the photograph half of him. Around the Lundhill colliery in Barnsley, Yorkshire, the ghosts of a number of miners killed in a disaster in the 1850s were reported when the surrounding pits were in operation. Right the way through the 20th century, over 400 sightings of ghost miners seen by their fellow miners using modern machinery. On the coal pit fields, Bedworth in Warwickshire, a young girl saw a man of short stature dressed in cavalier clothing carrying a sword. The phantom was surrounded by a green glow, beckoned to the child to approach her. She decided to go in the opposite direction, and yet the cavalier then walked directly in to the mine shaft, despite the fact that the mine had been capped and there was a huge metal door on it. On Benthell Edge, an area of former limestone in Shropshire, they keep seeing a man carrying the week's wages for his mining crew. He was robbed and buried alive in this area in the late 19th century. People to this day hear cries and screams coming from the place where the man was buried alive. On the Goonsian Down Mine on Bodmin Moor in Cornwall, for those of you that have ventured south, One tin mine shaft was nicknamed the Roaring Shaft, after the many bangs and thuds emanating from an empty tunnel. And then to the William Thorpe Colliery in Chesterfield, Derbyshire, not too far from where we are. A roadman from the colliery spotted a figure walking along a shaft in the dark. He held his lamp up to illuminate the figure, and the roadman recognised the figure as a man called Marrad, who had died a few days previous. The witness ran screaming from the site, terminated his employment, and yet the rest of that week, all the other miners saw the same thing. 2 senior electrical apprentices were working on a pump. The men forced themselves through cobwebs that had completely covered the tunnel for hundreds of yards to reach the pump. On completing the test, one asked the other, "Is the pump running right?" Before he could reply, he heard a child's voice say, Yep, it is." They searched the area to make sure they were not having a joke played on them, and they were completely and totally alone. So when you hear people say, "But you can hear noises," will we? Time will tell tonight. There's a place called Simon's Nick Rockface in Coniston, Cumbria. And this was a man called Simon Nick who was shown a secret seam of copper. He said the fairies told him where it was. So he mined it. But he was blown up when a keg of gunpowder exploded. They call it Simon Nick's Rockface because an image of his face that had exploded had stuck under the rock face. You could still identify the man from the fact that his face was now being worn by the rock inside the pit. At Cotgrave Colliery, Nottinghamshire, Gary Payne was working on a mine shaft. He watched a man dressed in black clothing wearing a helmet walk through a wall. He said the figure had no face. On the old mine tunnels at Dillif and Powys, a man exploring the tunnels watched a blue glowing light the size of a small person moving around ahead of him. Old miners told stories of balls of light, lit orbs that moved around the tunnels until they reached the surface, when they floated off into the sky. Then there's Hanging Flat Mine in Ireham in Derbyshire. Overground or underground, an elderly phantom carries a spade slung over his shoulder. He's said to mumble to himself, and then he hears picks hacking away in the darkness, even though the pit's been closed for 25 years. At the colliery at Goldthorpe in Yorkshire, our part of the world, a worker fled the coalfield after he watched a pair of disembodied boots, just 2 boots on their own, walking towards him underground. He could hear them, he couldn't see a figure, and then out of the darkness, just a pair of boots walking in his direction. In the Poldark Mine in Helston in Cornwall, a team of paranormal investigators recorded a phantom voice that curses any people that walk down the mine. And at Platt Lane, the Pretoria Pit Colliery area of Lee in Lancashire, it was reported that dozens of pairs of eyes would look out of bushes along this lane, and they belonged to the 368 people who died in an accident at Pretoria Pit. Prior to this disaster, miners en route would sometimes encounter the sound of an invisible pit pony that would just canter past them. As we're heading there, how close are we?
We're about 10 minutes, I think. Satnav says that.
Satnav says 10 minutes. We'll believe it. We're going to take a quick break now. We're coming back with 1 or 2 more stories as we make our way to somewhere that I think, well, I've been told I'll not last 10 minutes because it's so active down there that they're hearing stuff almost 24/7. Hard to believe. I haven't been in a place that busy, I think, ever. Let's see what it's like. See if it is as oppressive as they say. Tonight, all we need is you in a dark room, lights off, get your nibbles around you, close your eyes, and follow in my footsteps. On the pit shaft to hell is what they call it. How hellish will it be? We'll find out together on Alan Robsons Nightowls.
Friday for 37 years. It brought death to 104 of the town's miners. Trapped by an explosion in William Pit, Britain's oldest undersea mine, the men were imprisoned in a rock tomb. At the pit head, the Bishop of Penrith spoke words of encouragement to the rescue parties. Half a mile below the surface of the Solway Firth, other miners toiled to free their comrades. Once below, they had to overcome gas fumes and fallen rock. Lord Hindley, coal board chairman, came at first news of the disaster. In relays, rescue teams carried on the grim fight against death. After 30 hours, all hope was abandoned. But outside, wives and mothers still waited. Their men would not return. 104 of them had given their lives in the battle for coal. The whole of Britain mourns the loss of the men of Whitehaven. But with the vital part the mines must play in the survival of Britain, new men of courage will come forward to take the place of those who died at Whitehaven.
Alan Robson with you. Tonight we are heading towards a place that the locals, and especially George, a pitman of over 50 years experience, who invited me to this place, they know it as Hell's Pit. We're going to find out why. But as we were being talking, to think that every colliery has suffered deaths of one sort or another, you would imagine that, are they all haunted? Well, when we take a look, we discover that an awful lot are. Littleburn Colliery in Durham. A worker on night shift reported seeing a phantom pony walking towards the pit, which was grabbed by a disembodied arm. And over the next 15 years, workers would see this ghost pony walking around. A worker had been killed, apparently, in the pit by a runaway pit pony. At the quarry near Maltby in Yorkshire, two lads walking by came across a semi-naked man drinking from an old cider bottle, and he warned the pair to be careful. The figure entered a nearby shaft and vanished. One of the witnesses later found out that a former miner with a drinking problem had been found dead, almost identically on the spot where they were standing, next to a slurry pit. At Carla Pit, Moulton St Mary in Norfolk, a phantom highwayman used to drive a carriage around the pit, heading towards Callaspong, where he would vanish. The pit itself was said to be the home of the devil, who would be happy to drag any man down into the waters, because apparently somebody had lost a treasure chest in there. The devil had claimed it, and for every man that sought to steal the devil's money, he would take them down. At Risker in Gwent, miners' graves near a campsite in the forest have a phantom woman in white that patrols the area, the wife of a former miner who refused to go home after her husband was blown to pieces in one of the pits. She stayed at the gate of the mine, refusing to go away. His body was never returned. It was in such tiny pieces. At the old mine in Polbreen at St Agnes in Cornwall, a woman who committed suicide near the mine was seen drifting around and along the shafts. And this ghost once saved the life of a miner by calling his name, preventing him from being buried in a rockfall. In Morpher Colliery in Swansea, West Glamorgan, as if attempting to warn people against a disaster that killed 87. In the days leading up to the event, there were screams and cries coming from the mining tunnels. People were sent to investigate. No one was ever found. And then there was an explosion that ended up killing 87 people. At Silverhill Colliery in Teversal, an inspector travelling underground alone spotted a cap lamp in the distance, which remained always just ahead of him. Later on, while sawing planks for the gate end team, the man said his job suddenly became easier. It felt like someone else was helping him saw by pushing and pulling the other end of the saw. Startled, he let go of the saw, only to see the saw complete another 2 strokes by itself. 3 ghost hunters went to Weardale Colliery in Durham, Killip. They wanted to raise money for charity to spend the night there, only to be scared off by the screaming of a ghostly woman from the woods nearby. We've actually heard that and seen it. We got photographs of that incarnation. And the Greenhow lead mines at Wharfdale. Once again, sounds of mining can clearly be heard along the shaft. So, we're heading towards the unknown. And yet, some of the stories that we've had are amazing. In the Lady Victoria pit, an ex-miner believes that he's captured the spirit of a female coal sorter taking a nighttime walk through a former mine. Jimmy Devlin saw the apparition in Newton Grange, Midlothian. He says, I rarely share any of my pictures because of ridicule and cyber abuse from closed-minded people. But as you can see in this photograph, there's a woman dressed in a long flowing skirt, a blouse, her hair's tied up, she's got a headscarf on. And on the museum's website, the picture has pride of place. It is clearly one of the most vivid pictures of a ghost that I've ever seen. Taken by a pitman, patrolling the pit to make sure that it's safe. And he sees the women, because everybody pictures a mine of a place where there weren't any women, yet sorting the coal, particularly at times when there'd been an explosion and hundreds of people had died, they would hire women to come and pick the best coal out for the houses of the rich and the well-to-do, while your ordinary Joe Public would get the scraps and the dust. And in Washington, County Durham, Usworth Pit, 40 miners died in an explosion there, but the son of one of them became a respected trade union leader. His brother, who was on a day off when the Usworth Pit blew up, finished up as a Labour MP. The story of the tragedy that took place 130 odd years ago is being rediscovered through family photographs, really. A retired school teacher, Bill Richardson, grew up in the north, knowing all about the Usworth Colliery disaster because it took the life of his great-grandfather, along with 41 other men and boys. It was March 1885. But when his second cousin, Ken Richardson, descendant of Robert Richardson, who died in the blast, showed him some photographs, Bill decided he was going to try and find out a bit more. Records show that shortly before 9 p.m. of a night time on the 2nd of March in 1885, a build-up of gas ignited inside the pit, killing everyone inside, including Bill's own great-grandfather. And 2 rescuers died of gas too. Jury of peers returned a verdict of accidental death. They said, due to an explosion of coal dust, gas and air ignited by a shot fired in a stone drift the colliery had exploded. I mean, 5 years before that, another gas blast had taken 13 lives. Same colliery, Usworth. The youngest was a 14-year-old boy, and the oldest was a miner who was still working, and he'd worked over 60 years in the mine from being a 15-year-old boy himself, and he was 75 years old. The Richardson family photo album had pictures of Robert, who died, and pictures of the men that he worked down the colliery with. Ken's great-great-granddad had a brother, William, who'd kept all of these photographs. And after the disaster, 2 memorials were installed in the village, one in the parish churchyard where many were buried, including their great-grandfather. The memorial, with all of its shields, seems incredible. Each shield has the name of one person who died. And yet, that colliery is said to have figures that regularly show themselves. In fact, after the disaster, many miners were felt being shoved and pushed as if another worldly force had told them to get out because something was going to happen. And inevitably, whenever anybody was pushed by spirit, there would be a rock fall, or there would be a gas explosion, or there would be something. Over almost 100 years, there were over 50 incidents of miners claiming to have been saved by something they could barely see, or by a voice telling them to get out. Dead miners looking after the living. Be amazing to think that that kind of thing still goes on today. I have just seen a sign for the place where we're going. We will be arriving, I think, after a quick ad break. Alan Robson, heading in the direction of somewhere very dark indeed.
It's the Night Owls Halloween special. I'm Chris Felton, back at the studio looking after things tonight. I shouldn't be on the radio right now, but Alan's not actually back yet. You heard just before the break he had a few things to do. I've got Tony, who's sat in the car at the minute. Tony, what's happening?
Yes, hi Chris. Well, Alan's getting a bit of a safety briefing at the minute. He's obviously going to be going down into this place which no one's been down for years, or allowed down for years. So he's getting a safety briefing off the guy, giving him kind of a plan of what's down there when he gets there. And obviously if there's a problem, he needs to know the quickest and easiest way out. So that's what he's doing at the moment. He's talking, he's having a bit of a briefing. He's looking pretty white, to be honest.
Yeah, I've been noticing, and a lot of people are sort of saying as well on social media and stuff, that they can tell Alan's nervous about tonight. What is it? Because Alan's visited some of the scariest places in the world. What is it about this place in particular that's got him so nerved?
Well, a lot of people have died down in this mine, so it's a lot of fear, but it's a quite dangerous place to go down. So, you know, it's showing in his face. Let's put it this way. He might even bottle it yet. So anyway, I do have a backup. You know when he was down Killet Mine a few years back? I think it was 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a few clips of when he took listeners down there. Susie and Elizabeth, they were called. So I've got a couple of clips for us to listen to while he's getting his safety briefing.
You can't tell where the trees and the mountains merge with the sky. It is that black. In the distance, there is a road, a couple of headlights just moving by on the opposite hill to where we are. I'm surrounded with some people. Give me your name and tell me where you're from.
I'm Elizabeth and I'm from Stanley.
What are you doing here?
I don't know now.
Seemed like a good idea at the time until you get in the dark. What's your name?
I'm Lisa and I'm from Heaton.
From Heaton in Newcastle. And is it the first time you've done anything remotely like this?
Yes, and I think it'll probably be the last.
Susie, the first thing she said when she got out of the car to me was, I don't think I can do this.
I don't think I can, Alan. I got told I had to be here, so I am, but I'm not happy about it.
Well, you mean you're told?
You told me I had to.
Well, yeah, that's true. So she's in big trouble. Let's just say that. Tonight, we are at Killip. And we are going to experience not just a place, and I think a great many people may well have visited here during the day, to the amazing lead mine that is here, that spreads underground. It's not just that, though. Why is this place called Killop? Kill Hope. What else has happened on this ground? Well, that's what we're going to be doing. Now, this is ugly. Can you see the door open?
Yeah, I can see the door open.
Well, I'm just turning left into the tunnel. Now, I think you probably... We don't need the lamp, it's fine. Susie,
Right.
come with me. Right. It's okay. Just let me find the wall. We're there. Right. Okay, we're walking down and down and down and down. Watch your edge. Stay in the centre. Stay in the centre.
I can't see anything. I don't know what the centre is.
Behind our shoulders.
Okay.
Right, and right, okay. Okay. We keep walking. This is where escaping miners used to try and get out of the seam. Right, okay. You stay there.
I'm staying here.
You're staying right there, and hopefully, I'm going to try and find my way back.
Oh my god. But will you be at the door?
Might be.
And can you hear me from... Alan, can you hear me from the door? Can you hear me from up there?
Sorry?
Oh my god, this is so scary. I'm in an absolute black hole. I can't even see my hand is about half a foot in front of my face, and I can't see it. Right, I think they're going to shut the door now. Oh, okay, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the sound of the door being closed. So I'm now underground in a tunnel. I can't see a thing. I have absolutely no light. Right, but it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Right, I think I can hear them now. Okay, that big bang. That was the door being closed. Right, it's really silent. Just going to be still for a second. It smells really old and damp. I know it's impossible, but it seems like it's getting darker. I don't know why I'm whispering, but it seems like it's getting darker, but I know that's not possible because... What was that noise? Just heard like a popping noise, right? It's probably outside, that's fine. Yeah, so it's just gone like really, really black. I can almost hear. Okay, I just heard like a bit, it's almost like a big drop of water next to me. Right, I can hear someone in the tunnel. And I thought maybe that was Alan, but no, because Alan closed the door. Right, the noise has stopped. Right, I've just heard another noise. There's like a big splash of water dropping onto the ground. But I can't see a thing. Oh my god, what was that noise? I just heard a voice, like a whisper. Oh my god, I just heard a whisper. Right. I can hear whispering, I don't understand. Alan, is that you talking? I really don't understand now. Alan, are you speaking? Are you there? Oh my god, all I can hear is like whispering. But there's nobody. Oh my god, what's that noise? Footstep, but no, I can't have done because there's nobody here. Right, I'm just going to stand for a minute. I don't understand this whispering, and it sounds really close to me, but I came really far in. Alan, is that you whispering? Right, stop. Oh my God, my heart is going mental. Oh my God, this whispering sounds like it is right next to my face, and I can't hear words. I can just hear, it's as if there's two people talking, and they're just, oh my God, it's getting louder. It's like they're talking, and they're talking to each other, but they're whispering, and it sounds quite reassuring and comforting. And they're just talking amongst themselves. What was that? Oh my God, that was almost like a hiss, or like a wail. What was that? Right, Alan definitely lied when he said he'd come if I screamed, because he's nowhere to be found. And what was that noise? Oh my God. Just heard another creak. Don't like it, I'm underground. It squeaks. What was that? It's like something's falling. Oh my God, right, something's falling, but it's fine. I'm in a tunnel. Oh my God, right, it's falling more. It's like cracks. It's like something's cracking and crumbling. But it's fine. It's fine. What's that? Oh my God. Alan, is that you? Oh my God, something. Oh, it was like somebody started falling or walking. It was just a sudden noise. What is that? Oh my God. Right, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I'm going to be having words with Alan about putting me in here and then not coming to my rescue. Oh my God, Alan, where have you been? You're on my list. Right, oh my God, so open the door.
Sorry, were you shouting?
Are you all there? Alan, you put me in this tunnel. There's people. Oh my God, what is that? What is that? What is that? There's lights at the end of the tunnel. What's down there?
Is it just reflections?
Right, is there anything that can be in here? Let me have a look.
You are about 20 feet under the soil above us.
I don't understand.
Why? What's the matter?
Were you in here? You weren't in here because I saw you close
just
the door.
open the door.
I could hear two people were here and they were whispering to each other.
In here?
In here. And then, but no, we can't be in here because there's nobody in here.
Impossible. The whole point of us is to walk. We walk away miles down the road so that we can't hear you, you can't hear us. That's the point.
I'm very confused because I'm looking around the tunnel and there's literally nothing that could have crumbled or fallen. It's a very good,
There's nothing on the floor.
sturdy tunnel.
No,
Nothing on the floor.
It's interesting. You're about where the old workings ended, because there was no exit in the old days. Yeah. When we opened the place up as a museum, we had to continue this out and line it and make it safe.
Right.
Get people out. But where we're standing now wasn't at the surface yet. And this is about where the actual workings ended.
So what did you get in here anyway?
Why did they end?
What did you get?
Because they weren't digging their way out. They were just mining.
I was stood here in this tunnel and it felt like I started to hear some whispers maybe in the distance. I thought, right.
Down from down or from up?
From a bit from up. And then I thought, right, that could be Alan and it's just coming through the steel door, but never mind. But then
we can throw our voice through steel doors. It's one of our tricks.
And then all of a sudden I heard like a drop, almost like a massive splodge of water dropping from up really high and landing on like a hard stone surface. So I was like, right, there's a drop of water. I'm now seeing it's a bone dry tunnel, but never mind. So then then that happened like a few more times, like something was dropping, but then the whispering started getting closer and closer. And then it was like right in my ear, like two people whispering.
What were they saying? Could you make out
I couldn't make out words. It was just like, but obviously not like that. But and then the worst bit And then there was a couple of times and I was like, right, I can hear whispering, but then I can cope with that. But then it would come really close and be in my ear, and it was just right next to my ear, and then I screamed and he didn't come to me. I could feel changing in my left ear, like it's just sort of changing in atmosphere or pressure or something. Just like there was something there, but
it's black in here, you know, isn't it?
But then, and as well, it got darker. I know it can't possibly get darker, but it seemed to get even darker than what it is now, and you can't see anything now. And then at the very end, I'd screamed a few times. You hadn't came to my rescue, so I had to go back and deal with the whisperers. And then at the very end, it just turned into like a wail. I thought it was like a hiss, then like a wail, like right in my ear. It was horrible. It was really traumatizing.
Well, let's get you back. Yeah. Good job, you did well, because this, you can tell it's oppressive just from
dark. I wouldn't know where to walk to.
So what we did was, because this door locked when you close it is the thing, and he stuck the key in it and we were away.
I know, I heard you lock it, and then I kept thinking maybe you'd come back in, but then no, because I hadn't heard it open.
Well, that's the whole point, you're not,
Very confused.
There you go.
It's done.
There's no way in, look.
So once, so you'd have heard the keys and stuff. You don't understand.
Alan, I don't understand.
But you had some dead people talking in your ear. How did that feel? That's a result.
Felt brilliant, but no, because
brilliant. At the time, did you say, thank you very much for that? That sounds brilliant. Is that what you said?
I'm enjoying being part of your conversation.
Right.
I don't feel like I should joke about it, but when I'm still here.
Down here, babe.
Maybe I'll joke about it when I'm safely on like home ground.
Right, okay.
Not with the tunnel below me.
No. So we'll get back. I don't know whether the crew will be waiting there, but we're about to find out. We're heading back. Alan Robson from Killip Lead Mine. This is a place you've got to come and see.
Alan Robsons Halloween Special. Down Hell's Pit. Metro Radio.
Right, shop a knife slice.
It's the Night Owls Halloween Special. I'm Chris Felton, back at the studio. As you heard before, Alan is getting ready to take part in a dark adventure down a mine that's supposed to be haunted, but he's still not quite ready. Tony's in the car still waiting for him. What's the situation now?
Yeah, well, I'm sat here in the car still. I've been told 5 minutes, basically. He's got to have the safety briefing because a lot of people died down this mine. It's very dangerous. He shouldn't even be going down. And I can hear the terror in his voice. He might even bottle it yet. I'm not even sure. But we did visit Killip Mine in 2010 for a Halloween special. So another clip of that, and then Alan will be going down this mine with any luck.
Just talking to the talkie stick. Everything you see.
How long? When will you come and get me?
We'll come and get you within the hour.
Well, oh God, what?
Good luck.
Okay, but if I shout, you'll come back for me.
If I can get
No. Oh my God. Oh, Alan. Oh God. Oh, again, it's bloody hell. Sorry for swearing, sorry for swearing. God. It's so dark. So dark again. It's freezing. Oh, I'm in where the big wheel is, the bloody, I don't know, moves the water and, oh God. Oh, this is terrifying. Oh God, please, anything that's around me, don't hurt me or anything. Oh God. I can hear is the running water, and I'm stood in water that's sort of past my ankles. Oh God. God, I'm so frightened. Oh God. I'm trying to be respectful of anything that's here. Thank you for letting me here, and I won't be long. I'm sorry if... Oh, God, I'm trying to be as quiet as I can. Oh my God, what's that noise? Oh. I don't want to be here. Stop it, Elizabeth, you stupid cow. God, get a grip, get a grip. All I can hear is the running water. And it's just so cold, and really, really cold. It feels like the temperature's dropped. Oh, God. It was so deep underground here. And it took... Oh, my God, I can hear something. I can hear something banging around. Alan! Oh. Alan! Oh, God! God, I'm f***ing myself. God, get a grip. Oh, just... Oh. Trying to be brave. Oh, my God, I can hear banging. I can hear, like, knocking on... Because there's a wooden... Oh, Alan! No! Who's that? Oh!
What the hell? Oh, there you are. Oh. What's happened? What's happened?
It's like this. Hang on.
What's happened?
It's almost like that on the wall.
What?
It's in the. Oh,
Tell me.
It's in the corner. It's behind me because I was just stood there, and it's like that on the wall and behind us.
Was it in here? Happening in here? Oh, there's ladders there.
It was.
What happened? Tell me.
I was stood. That's about as far as I got in.
Right. There was something in this side.
It was like behind me.
Right.
And it was like that.
Are you all right?
No, not really.
Hey.
Oh.
It's all right. We were
Twice.
quite far out. I don't know whether you heard us kind of plodding away, but...
Did you shut that door as well?
Yeah. That's why we couldn't hear you. Come.
It was like that.
Enough. Come on. No, I think we've got to get you out. Let's get you out. Watch your head. Now, don't forget, we've got to go down that dookie bit. You know the bit with the... Just let's get you out as quick as we can. I think you've had enough now. This is that dookie bit, okay? Keep your head down.
But when we walked down, remember I was in the middle and Alex was in front of you.
Yeah.
Something definitely pulled my hair.
Something pulled you...
Definitely.
You said that, but I was right behind you. There was
You had both.
I've got stuff in both my hands. I couldn't have done it. Ow. Too busy worrying about my... Are you okay? Watch your head. I say that because I keep banging mine. Just watch your step. Elizabeth has had a horrific experience in there. Absolutely horrific.
No, you didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Explain what happened to them.
I was in where the big wheel was, and I was stood quite near the entrance, but I heard it was like that. Like two slaps.
But this was actually in there with you, because we were up past that door. You saw the door where we went and came through, and then obviously Alex came back.
Did you shut that door?
The door was shut all the time.
I heard two slaps.
Inside the room you were in?
Yeah, behind me, but because I was stood right... You go in, and I was stood there, back against the wall. And it was in the corner, in the back, towards the back.
Right.
Like that.
Wow.
Twice.
Well, Elizabeth, you're out of here. I bet you're glad to be... glad that's over?
Oh, God, yeah. I need some new underpants.
Right, okay.
A Halloween ghost hunt with Alan Robson. Metro Radio. Meerkat Movie. Downhill's Pit. Metro Radio.
16 miners lose their lives underground in a colliery explosion near Barnsley. As usual, dozens of men volunteer to go down and face fire and poisonous gases, trying to save their comrades. But nothing can be done for the men who lie entombed hundreds of feet below.
Right, well, here we are at the beginning. An industrial estate directly in front of me. Behind me, a place with amazing history that you will get to know across tonight. And I have to say that the place behind me has had something like 180 separate incidents that have led to the death of somebody. In some cases, as many as 350 at a time have died here. Everything that could possibly go wrong with an underground space has happened here. The miners believed that the gas had a life of its own down here, the fire damp, and it would wait until there was somebody down here, and it would seek them out. Individual miners on their own carrying a Davy lamp, a Geordie lamp, that was invented in our part of the world, would walk down here and the gas would get hold of the lamp, extinguish it, choke the person carrying it to death because it was pitch black and he couldn't see where he was going. And sometimes they would just find the body lying on the floor as if they were asleep, but they weren't asleep, they were dead. On other occasions, the gas would ignite with the lamp and blow the person up, blow him to pieces for carrying a lamp down here. They've got different gases that seem to almost follow people around, and it's no different today. I've been given special dispensation to go down here. They've told me where I can go, where I should be all right, as long as I don't carry a naked flame. When he said, should be all right, that kind of hit me a bit, because then I start researching. And what I would love for this show to do more than anything is to pay tribute to all of the people from our part of the world and across the country, really, who've gone down into the black to try and make a living. My dad, when he was young, was given a place in a colliery because my granddad went to Leamington, a pit shaft in Leamington. I lost a member of my family in the early 1900s up the mountains in Concert. Robson died up there. And I know the damage it can do. My granddad died of breathing problems caused by being in air like the sort that I'm heading into tonight. So I've got no doubts of how dangerous it's going to be. It's just at every level, every piece of equipment down there has had a problem, has broken, lift shafts have fallen, or they've even been blown upwards, crushing people looking down to see where the lift was. This place has claimed so many lives. So I am feeling a little bit intimidated, and you're going to be staying up here. You're not allowed to go in. They've only given me permission. How do you feel about that? Would you fancy it?
Well, how do you feel? Because you're looking pretty white at the moment.
I must say that we've done a lot of stuff, and I'm up for most things, but when you said mines, I thought, let's go to a one that's open, that tourists can have a look around. And however,
it feels eerie just standing up here, to be honest, doesn't it?
Well, you can see
got an atmosphere about it.
We've got to go in there and walk about 100 yards before we even get to the lift. Now, last time I read a story about this lift, it went tumbling and it took everybody that was in it to their death, and I'm going to get in there. So I'm not bottling it. I am going to do it, but this is it's something that's killed members of my family, and that kind of brings it home in a big way. And the thing about gases, they say that they've bored holes to try and get rid of most of the gases. I hope they've succeeded, because the stuff that's down there, if it is as lethal as they say. It's interesting though, because we talk about how everything to do with life and energies and ghosts and spirits and stuff, they see stuff around here all the time, particularly down in the shaft, and they hear kids running around, they hear people talking just as if two miners are chatting at the coal front, but there's nobody down there. They hear stories of seeing figures that are even darker than dark, and I've told people this for years. That's what you've got to look for, the darkness that moves inside the darkness. They say they see figures. They've seen entire shifts of like 50 and 60 shapes moving along the corridors here, and they've also had a very bizarre. That's the only time I've ever heard of a horse ghost. Well, you heard about like headless horsemen, you hear it, and they all seem a bit far-fetched. Here, however,
What was that?
I have no idea, but I've just heard something that sounded kind of like an explosion, and it came from directly behind the doors of this. And I know there's nobody there. I know there's nobody in here, but I've just heard a tremendous noise from inside. I don't know whether you caught that. I hope you did. So you're going to be sitting in the car on the industrial estate.
I'll be listening for your screams.
But you'd not be able to talk to me, though, is the thing.
I can't. Well, I'm not allowed down, that's the thing, why they do this.
So you hear my screams and then do...
Then I have an emergency contact, and, we're not supposed to be here, so...
I know, it's
if there is a mine near you, please, honestly, don't try this yourself.
No.
Please don't try this yourself.
As I say, I've been given special dispensation. It's a favour, really. And I want to say a big thank you to the people actually who I can't name for doing this, but they know who they are. And we're going to take a walk. And, we talk about stepping into the darkness. Well, it's not going to get darker than this. And we'll see how it is. I must admit, for those of you that have got any members of your family that's ever had to go into soaking places like this, and maybe in some cases on Teesside and Wearside, pits that go out 1 mile and 2 mile under the sea, I give you my absolute respect. My dad was due, I mentioned earlier that my dad was due to start working on the pits, and what he did was he was always a bit worried about it because he knew that we'd lost a few members of our family down the pit. So on the day that he was due to go to Leamington Pit, funnily enough, the same one that me granddad was at, he left as if he was going to go to work, but he never turned up at the pit face. And later that day there was a collapse and 20 people got killed. Me dad's parents were at the pit face wondering where he was, because obviously he hadn't come out, but he wasn't there. So back home later that day, my dad turns up as if he'd just finished his shift. They knocked 7 shades out of him. So now is the moment. Oh, yoy. Right, let's pull this door open if we can. It's not seeming to open. Should be in here somewhere. Am I doing something wrong? They said the door into the cage would be left open. Oh, there you go. Open. And into the complete and utter blackness. This is where I say goodbye to Tony.
Good luck.
All you got to do is shut me in. I think I know everything else we've got to do. Oi. Walkie-talkies here. So, walking directly down, and I mean a long way down. Oh, wooden beams that are horrible broken beams. I don't know how they've managed to stay up, but if you'll take a close look at them, literally the wood's just peeling off. Oh, look, and there's the metal bolts there as well. What's that holding up? It's dark. There's a horrible smell, awful, reeking, minging stench of whatever it is. And in here, there's a door that I've just closed. Now, all over the place, there's some modern stuff in here as well. I noticed there's some aluminium ladders and boxes of stuff, and there, right in front of me, some more miners' helmets. Box full of them, in fact. And this is the place. Oh, blimey, there's cobwebs, from floor to ceiling in here. Oh, and as soon as you touch anything, the dust just flies in the air. Because we're deep in the pitch-black bowels of the pit that they call Hell's Pit. A mine that twists and turns, no stars, no moon to light the way, just jagged rock like tunnel walls waiting for shuffling feet or to crash your head against something that's hanging down. The belly of a pit, the most dangerous place for men. But with the lure of gold and silver and black gold, coal, they're going to come. The miners are going to do their best. They're going to make sure that anything that's there, they manage to dig out. And in here, it's outfits of what coal miners would have. I know you've seen the helmets, but do you know that before the helmets, miners' hats back in the 1800s, they weren't to protect the head. They were merely a cloth cap to put a lamp, to rest a lamp on top of. And everybody would carry a lunch bucket. Looks a bit like a really big, just stood on something a bit squishy there. Don't know whether you heard it. I'm getting a little bit of noise from outside as well, but I can't make out what it is. But I kind of feel safer in here because at least there's 4 hours. Also, miners would carry a candlestick, and the stuff that they would have in their miner's bucket would be stuff like pasties, they used to call them back in the day. Very, very famous, created in Cornwall for the Cornish tin miners, but essentially any old meat you could get your hands on, shape them into a pastry shell, and that would be in there, usually with some water, and that was the main content of a miner's bucket. There's also ore buckets that are piled up here. I don't know whether you can see it, but there's a one. There's a one there. They used to hand carry a lot of the coal, and they would put that into the ore bucket, and these became commonplace in all directions. I can hear a kind of like an air conditioning unit blowing as well, and I must admit it's some of the freshest air that I've had, even though it just seems to be sending dust in all directions. And do you know, there are certain signals that became synonymous with miners. You know, when you're trying to get a miners into one of these old-fashioned lifts that would take you up and down, the cage that would take you down, well, apparently there'd be a small bell there. The signals became synonymous with mining, and every mine in Britain and abroad used the same signal. One bell was to send the hoist up. One bell, stop, if the hoist was in motion. 3 bells, cage release. 2 bells, lower the cage. 3 bells, men on. 7 bells, a shaft accident and danger signal. 3, 3 and 1, hoist slowly with great care. 3, 3, 2, lower slowly with great care. 3, then 4, tools, timber or other materials being carried. 3, 5 and 3 bells, general danger, fire alarm, get out. Or 3, 2 and 1, we're ready to explode a new hole in that shaft. So essentially take cover. They were the signals that every miner would learn. And the clothing that they wore, what do you think that a miner wore in those days? Oh, hang on. Strange smell coming through with respect to the to that air conditioning. All of a sudden I'm getting it's a bit gassy. Not a pleasant smell at all. So just look at many other things that's worth looking at. Everywhere you look there's boxes and different pieces of equipment and big satchels that modern miners would have used. But some of these things date way back to the 1830s. But back then, you know, sometimes the collieries, because they had furnaces in them, to try and clear the dead air away, they'd put a furnace at the bottom of a shaft so that the air would be driven up. And sometimes the colliery got so hot that they wouldn't wear clothes at all. They would only actually cover up when they were coming out of the pit at the end of a shift. They would wear underwear bottoms, short or long drawers, buttoned at the fly and cinched with a black belt. The undershirt was long and quite often made of wool, so you'll understand why they would be quite keen to get shot of it. Trousers, cloth suspenders buttoned at the waist. They were loose fitting to allow miners to get down and about. We've already seen a couple of knee pads that were on the counter over yonder. Outerwear, double-breasted vests. Can you imagine? You got a big shirt, you've got undergarments right the way down to the floor. You've got your big white shirt to go coal mining, ridiculous. You've got your double-breasted vest made up of heavy-duty cotton. The front of your trousers a button flap or a button fly. On top of that, you might have a brocade vest or a sack coat, were popular at the time, just to cover up your filthy shirt till you got home, where your missus would be expected, in a most sexist of fashion, to keep you clean. A lot of miners wore rubber boots originally. Then they found that wasn't successful, because as soon as a bit of coal or a heavily hewn stone would fall, it would shatter your feet. So it wasn't long before basic boots had steel toe caps put in them. What else would a miner carry? Well, a large handkerchief, quite often knotted around the neck. An absolute necessity for a miner to wipe his brow while he's working, and sometimes that neckerchief was the only thing a miner would wear when he was digging coal. Half a dozen naked men all together hewing away at the coal. And during the summer months they would try and have a light cloth around their neck rather than a heavy cotton one. And do you know, occasionally they would make themselves a hat that looked very like a Panama hat. And rather than the small miner's cap, the cloth cap that became synonymous. And then, of course, I've got in front of me a whole range of their tools. They would use a pick, their lunch bucket. There's a lunch bucket here, just on the... don't know what... it's in amongst a whole load of things. I don't want to move it too much. A lunch bucket there. Coal oil lamps as well that would provide a little bit of light in the mine shaft. There's also over here a bucket that would contain blasting powder. It's in a big cardboard box there at the moment. To dislodge coal from some of the coal veins. There would be carbide lamps that replaced the coal oil because they gave a better and bigger light. The carbide would be placed in the lamp, mixed with water. That was lit and would provide light for the miners. The basic tool was the pick, but do you know most people didn't have a pick with a handle on it? Do you know most people just had the actual metal bit and they would dig and hack away with that? Also on here, I've just noticed there's a couple of really tiny things. In here, they put them in little plastic bags. Copper discs were used as ID tags, and when a miner filled a coal car, he would hang his ID on the side of the car, so when the coal was dumped, the miner would get credit for that particular weight of coal. And there's also, in another bag, just to the other side, this one, there's another coal company script, it was called. It was a large hex coin. It was worth about £1, and it was an absolute bonus that you would get at the end of a month if you happened to be the person that generated the most amount of coal. Some of the coal owners, or the pit owners, would use that as an incentive. It was rarely paid. And also the hammer and wedges to reduce the size of a large block. And the only other thing here is this. It's a huge wooden tamping tool with a metal needle with a handle. They were used when a miner had to blast a coal vein to break the coal from it. A hole drilled into that vein of coal. Blasting powder would be poured into it on a piece of newspaper, and they would get themselves away as far as they could, and they would fire it. A squib would be placed in the hole like a firework. The miner then had 5 minutes to get to safety before the blast would occur, and an awful lot of miners didn't make it. It's said that 1 in 10 explosions would take a life or take a limb. And speaking of that, we're moving next door, because through this cage there's the surgeon's office, and I'm heading there next. And, you know, even though I'm saying that, from the actual pit shaft, which is behind me, the thing that I'm getting the occasional noise. I don't know whether you're hearing any, but I'm going to be going into that room with that air conditioning thing. If I can get this damn door open. Join me after the break. Alan Robsons Nightowls, Halloween from Hell's Pit.
Down Hell's Pit. Metro Radio.
Knockshinnock Castle Colliery near Cumnock, Ayrshire, is the scene of the greatest rescue operation in Scottish mining history, when Earth's subsidence traps 128 men below ground. A long vigil faces those who wait. A vigil all too familiar to those whose menfolk win their livelihood in the bowels of the earth. The men went down to work here. Behind them, this land, undermined by floods, subsided into the tunnel. From the old bank colliery working, rescue crews plan to cut through 30 feet of coal to reach the men. Above ground, others are throwing material into the huge crater to stop further falls of mud and slush which might fill the working and drown the trapped men. Nearby, fire pumps pump out the swollen stream which caused the trouble. Anxiety grows when gas is reported. A giant air pump is brought into action, but rescue cannot wait. It must be a respirator rescue. So teams go down to show them how to use them and bring up 3 at a time. Thanks to the rescue crews, many homes are happy again.
Right, there's, in every direction there's just bits of wood and stuff kind of in my way that I've got to get out of the way to get into what I believe to be the surgeon's office. Hang on. There you go. Slowly. As I say, there's cobwebs. Oh, blame you, you're just going to have to pull all the cobwebs to one side with my hand, making sure there's nothing creepy or particularly crawly. Awful. It's obviously a while since anybody's been in here, and I must admit, there was a tiny little lock on the door, but it was fixed to a piece of rotten wood that I've managed to just jerk free, so I hope they don't mind when they come in here. Shutting the door behind me, and you'll have to ignore the huge device that's just to my left-hand side. It's on the wall, trying to keep this area with a little bit of air in it, because the pit that I'm going into has got a history of bad air, gas and nastiness. Now, this is the office, and it's all still pretty much as it is. Let me just describe. There's 1, 2, 3 shedding table in front of me that has nicks and gouges out of it, and it's stained purple and red. There are drawers, old-fashioned cabinets with drawers with medical equipment of all sorts in it. There's a huge magnifying glass, old-fashioned magnifying glass, so that presumably when they cut you open, they'd be able to look inside your body and see what was wrong, or try to rebuild a hand that had been mashed by a fall of stone. And it's come a long way, surgery. And it dates back, and a lot of people think, in the 1800s, what would it have been like? It dates back to ancient Rome, Athens, Alexandria. I mean, even Paleolithic people back in the day carried out things like brain surgery. You know, trepanning, they call it. Breaking the skull to allow the pressure inside the skull to come out of it. But here, in the pit surgeon's office, where there's a whole range of different tools. There's the trepanning tool that I've just mentioned, which, hang on, if I put the microphone down, I might be able to operate it. Now, hang on, can you imagine for 1 second that's drilling into your skull because you've been hit on the back of the head and you've got pressure bursting your head open, so you, until you get through the skull and then pop. Now, the thing that used to happen when you trepanned somebody, when it popped into the skull, because inside your head was hotter than the room outside, especially here because it's freezing, all of the hot air would come out of the skull, and people used to say The spirit's leaving the body. The ghost is leaving the body, and quite often what was left of the human being after they trepanned, because sometimes the drill would go a little bit too far and catch a bit of brain matter, and that was the end of that man's conscious life. Amputations, though, here were by far the most frequent surgery. Surgeons would pride themselves as the fastest, the speediest procedure, and without the benefit of anaesthesia, they had to be held down by 3 or 4 strong blokes to complete the amputation. And here on the table, there's a whole pile of those tools. There's a saw here. I think the original saw. Hang on, I'm going to put the microphone down again. And on here, this is just a piece of cardboard. But imagine, now think about this: your hands mashed, or your leg has been crushed, and it's now got gangrene, and it's starting to stink and literally turn green. The great amputators would control bleeding and infection as best they could, and they developed a whole range of their own anaesthetics. But speed, that was the difference between life or death. Speed. If you had a good surgeon in your colliery, and most people didn't have a good surgeon, then your life would possibly be saved. But it was speed. A Scottish surgeon called Benjamin Bell could cut through a human bone in 6 seconds. James Wood of New York said he could amputate a thigh in 9 seconds. Other amputations, like shoulder joints, would take a lot longer. Now, you got to remember, there's no anaesthetic, not if you're down a pit, no anaesthetic. You're being held down by 3 or 4 of your mates who are sitting there watching while the surgeon sees your mashed and mangled hand. And then the surgeon starts. Long, slow strokes to make sure that they got to the bone, and then try and get it through to... I can't even get it through a piece of cardboard. How the hell they got it through a piece of human bone, who knows? A lot of the surgeons used to practice on the dead bodies of people that were brought out of the pit dead. And rather than just have them buried immediately, they would practice amputating an arm or a leg on the dead body of somebody's husband or somebody's son. Now, whether amputations actually saved lives, back then, sometimes they didn't. The guy would have one leg and then would die of sepsis or blood poisoning. A lot of military surgeons used to say around the same time that if a limb had been amputated cleanly by a cannon or a gun, they would just leave it like that, and they wouldn't even sew it up. They would let nature take its course, and if you lived, you lived. And also, I know now, we know that in some hospitals they put maggots on the wound to clean it up. That started with Napoleon. His field surgeons introduced maggots or fly larvae onto soldiers' wounds. They're still doing that to this day. One of the worst things to happen, and it funnily happened a lot in collieries, and there's a gadget here. It's like a pair of harsh pliers. Don't know whether you can hear that, they're a bit rusty. And those pliers were used for glossectomies. Do you know what a glossectomy is? It's quite often when a miner's hacking for coal, he would find himself inadvertently biting his tongue. And the tongue's, because your mouth's a dirty part of your body anyway, your tongue filling up with black dust all the time that you're breathing in, your tongue would become infected and sometimes even cancerous. And what they had to do was carry out a glossectomy, which essentially was the removal of your tongue. And you can't just get rid of the tip, you have to get rid of it right down the end of your throat, and it has to be yanked as far as you possibly can, where you feel that you're absolutely choking to death, and then hacked off. But you use this tool, the pliers, to hold the tongue firmly while you yank it as far as you can, using this It's a cutting tool. And it sounds very, very blunt, but back in its day, it would have hacked off a human tongue. Nasty, scary, and terrifying. Ugh. Yeah, awful things that they used to do. The loss of an eye was common, and they've got tiny little cutting tools here. Little kind of pliers, and these much bigger ones that used to be able to pluck an eye out, and then they would cut the veins behind the eye, and using a heated taper, a red-hot piece of metal to seal closed that eye. Obviously, it'd be impossible for you to see again, and they even left the socket wide open. There's a gadget here as well, where you would test the blood pressure of people. And we're talking, because we're very fortunate, because here we have a surgeon's office that obviously had a doctor in it, a proper doctor. 9 collieries out of 10 didn't. They had a guy that had been on a course, he'd learned basic first aid, and yet a man who, imagine, because I've been on one of those first aid courses, you can give somebody the kiss of life, you can do a few chest compressions, you can position them in the right way into the recovery position. But imagine if somebody said, there's a guy whose arm's hanging off. You've got to sort out the wound. You've got to pull the skin from either side to try and cover it. And then you've got to sew it closed while the guy's still alive without any anaesthetic for him. His leg's off, but not completely. You're going to have to saw the top part away. And you've never done this kind of stuff before. Most mines didn't even have a doctor, barely a medic, yet they'd be expected to amputate, stitch you up, take your tongue out, take your eye out, pick up pieces and try and sew them back on. It was a grisly and bloody place, as this place absolutely testifies, with the various saws that they've got. I've just found another saw. Imagine, just for 9 seconds is the fastest to amputate a bone. Now remember, we mentioned this before, so what I'm going to, before I talk you through some of these tools, I'm going to put this down and I'm going to saw for 9 seconds, right? 9 seconds. Now, talk about the worst pain you've ever suffered in your life. 9 seconds to get that bone cut. We're talking about an arm here, not a leg, not any of the big bones, just your arm. 9 seconds. Sounds like it's no time at all. Just get ready to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Could you stay conscious for that length of time? I'm not sure that I could. We also have pretty much all of the tools here. Amazing tools. In front of me now is this. It's a bullet extractor. Sometimes you think, well, there's no bullets flying around down here. No, there isn't. But there's little bits of rock flying in all directions. There's explosions, and little pieces of rock would get into your, physically into your skin, and you'd have to go into it to try and dig it out. It's got almost an end like scissors. However, one long spike for any pieces of rock that were deeply embedded into a patient's body. This could be inserted into the wound, grab the piece of rock and pull it out. There's also this as well, which is next door to it. It's an amputation knife. It was curved because surgeons tended to make a circular cut. It looks almost like something that you would you would sheave corn with. It almost looks like a scythe. It's a horrible looking thing. And also it's in this pack we got there's a wonderful little glass jar here as well. I don't know whether you can. And behind the glass there's some leeches, dead leeches now, long dead. And the incredible thing is they used them to usually an eye and ear surgery. The blades would cut a wound in the patient's eye, and you would put a leech on it to suck out the bad blood. Also, he's got tools here. This actually, if this is what I think it is, it looks like it's a cervical dilator for women. But there were women here. Some women would work cleaning out the coal, and if they were pregnant, they would absolutely need a doctor, so it doesn't surprise me too much. There's a thing here called a tonsil guillotine. Yeah, oh, can you imagine? It worked on your tonsils just like a traditional guillotine. It means that it was forced down your throat. It almost looks like a pair of sugar tongs, and yet as it gets deeper and deeper down, oh blimey, it's a nasty looking thing with spikes, and it's forced down your throat until you get to the back of it where there's a little mini guillotine that just shuts, bang, and your tonsils were gone. They've also got a thing here which is incredible. It is the longest V-shaped, it's actually a circumcision knife, and they've got one of them here too. Heaven knows why, but it's a really ancient, nasty. Yeah, can you imagine holding somebody with this damn thing? Also, there's a lithotome. Now, this was used to cut the bladder in order to remove stones. You know, a lot of people breathing in a lot of nasty chemicals would get a kidney stone maybe, or get a gallstone, and they had a doctor tool here that they could use to remove it. They also had something called a tobacco smoke enema. It was used, you would blow smoke into the patient's rectum. It sounds says, don't blow smoke up my ear, but they actually did. They blew smoke, and they've got one of those machines here. It's a drawer that on a gadget. Hang on, let me just open it up a little bit further. There you go. And inside are the tubes, and that's where the phrase comes from, to blow smoke up someone's ass. I mean, it's where it came from. They would blow smoke to resuscitate victims who had been overcome with gas. They also used it if a pit flooded and somebody was drowning. They would insert the rectal tube into the anus, connect it to a fumigator, and had bellows pumping air into the body of the person. But it wasn't air, it was smoke from this incredible gadget that's here. Can't believe it. Also, of course, if they had somebody's hand that needed cutting off and the 2 or 3 men couldn't hold them down, there's even a vise here. You can't hear it, but it's a heavyweight tool right in front of me that you could put somebody's arm in to hold it steady. They've got an amputation saw. We've already seen that. We've already played with that a little bit. What else is here? They've got all kinds of strange and odd tools. An ecrasur, which was used to sever hemorrhoids and any tumours that you might have. A chain was looped over the hemorrhoid, and then you would pull it tight, but because it was made of metal, the metal would hack the hemorrhoid off. So if you've got piles and you say to your boss, oh, me piles are playing up, whoa, you'd be brought to a place like this. Oh, and there they would go. Hernia tool to restore the hernia, insert it into the body near the necessary area to try and seal the hernia. They got so many gadgets. Another one, this here, is the Hertz compass to determine where bits of stone were located that had fired themselves into the body. There's also a mouth gag, which is a little bit like a wooden corkscrew. They got one here. It's a screw-shaped mouth gag. You'd put it into an anaesthetise, if somebody's had a couple of swigs of whiskey, they'd put it into somebody's mouth to keep the airway open. And then there was a scarifactor. Oh, blimey, I've just heard a very strange noise from in here, and that wasn't me. There's a noise behind me, a bit of a clump. Starting to freak a bit. I think it's all these tools. A scarifactor was used for bloodletting. The spring-loaded blades would cut into the skin. Oh, there you go. It didn't sound much, but it would cut into the skin up to about an inch, and a rounded glass cup would be placed over the wound, and when it warmed up, it would help the blood pour out of the body at a faster rate if they thought that the wound had been poisoned. There's a Trafini. I haven't seen one of these. This is another one of those hand-powered drills, and what this was to bore into the skull, or alternatively, if there was some rock that had fired itself in an explosion, but it was stuck into the human bone, into a shoulder blade, into a leg, they would use this to get it out. It's bigger and slightly more sophisticated than the other one that we had before. We've got a whole range of odd and amazing tools here. The amputation saw is an ugly looking thing, and right in front of me we've got a skull saw. A hand cranked saw blade that was used to cut through sections of the skull, allowing for access with other instruments. It's certainly a horrible device, and I must admit, I certainly can you imagine that into your head, just so they could get in there, so a guy with limited medical training could poke away and see if he could put you right. I've spent a fair bit of time in here amongst all of these amazing tools, and it's hard to believe that a surgeon would have literally there's one drawer full, and there's just tools for absolutely every device and every cause known to man. Oh, there's another one that's just fired something into the air, but I think I've put this off long enough. I'm going to have to go and face the darkness of what they call Hell's Pit, and find out what lies beneath. Britain's most listened to, Alan Robsons Nightowls. Oh, that's it's building. We're gonna just walk along, and we're going to be coming to the main lift that takes you right the way down. It's along here, and what they've got is they've got fire breaks at the end of each corridor. They've got a wall so that if there is an explosion, you can get behind the wall and hopefully it won't kill you. And you go around corners. This bit is dripping wet round here, absolutely soaking. And before I go down, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this place. I don't know about you, but I'm hearing noises already. Can you? I just thought I heard somebody talking down the bottom there. Also heard kind of almost footsteppy noises, and there's running water literally dripping down the walls. Although you cannot hear it, it's running into canals below my feet. Oh, just heard a bang. Just heard a bang in the distance. That's not what you want to hear. This particular colliery in Yorkshire So silent now. Do you notice, as soon as it gets super silent, it's even more eerie. We're in Yorkshire, and explosions just started happening here, and eventually it had to be shut down, but not until it killed hundreds upon hundreds of people. It was sunk in the 1800s, 1830s, and there were a few small explosions, and the mine owners thought they were really lucky because, in their words, only 3 or 4 lives were sacrificed. 2 years later, there were more serious accidents. And they say, well, fire damp accumulates in old workings and was somehow, some miraculous way, led to an explosion. And of the men underground, anybody that was close to that explosion would die. I mentioned that individuals sometimes would die here, and they'd literally walk into an area of oh, what the hell was that? Shoot, just seen it. Could be imagination, but I've got a head torch on. It's not very bright, but at the end of this corridor, I'm sure I saw something move. It's this time of year as well. You can see your breath in front of you evaporating. Blimey, it's cold down here. And I'm not underground properly yet. I'm only probably 50, 60 feet below ground. So what would occasionally happen is a man would walk down, just hit a patch of gas, and the gas would just blow him up. And when people would come down, they'd find bits of his head exploded onto the ceiling, and arms and legs and internal organs that they'd have to pick up. And they say there was nothing they could do about it. They made some changes to the pit. The down shaft was changed to an up shaft, with a furnace burning continually at its foot, believing that the fire would burn off the gas. It didn't. Fire damp just found a way of collecting, and it fed on the people that walked around here. And the people who worked in the pits at the time called it the creeping death. And they said that they waited until you got down to a place like this, and then you felt as if you were being followed. And I keep seeing at the bottom of this area, oh, hang on, I see what it is. It looked like there was a figure. It still looks like there's a figure. And at the bottom of this area, you see how far I'm walking down? Just directly ahead of me, I can see the pit shaft and the old rattly lift that's going to take me down there. They say it's self-explanatory once you get in. I'll be going down soon to see what it's really like down there. Must have been I'm a little frightened of the lift. The seam here was known in the trade to be gassy, with sudden rushes of fire damp, sufficient to put a Geordie lamp out, one of the Davy lamps. On one occasion, all of the lamps in almost a mile were put out with one blast of gas. Everybody is then in pitch black, and everybody panicking, thinking there's going to be an explosion at any time. When somebody managed it again, they would look, and a dozen men were lying on the ground as if they were knocked unconscious by it. But even though they looked like they were sleeping, they were actually dead. I think I've got to go down now. So what I'm going to do is come round here to this area here where I'm directly in front of the metal door now. And let's get in the lift. here I am. Here I am in the cage. I think you can hear that it's slightly different to being outside in the main pit. And we're travelling down and down and down and down. Oh, jeepers. They say that it's not like a department store. It'll only stop when it gets to the bottom. God, it gets stuck in somewhere like this. And I know my phone will have absolutely no signal at all. You're going down and down. Jeepers, how far? They say that it's about 1.5 miles. And then when you get out, it's a further 1/4 mile to in one direction to the pit face where they would dig. But there are several shafts down here, and I've been told specifically which ones to stay in and which ones, but I'm still going down and down. This lift is clankety and listen could have sworn. Listen even though I'm in the lift, I'm hearing other noises. Come on, 10 to the dozen. Oh, that was I just heard a strange squeaky noise there. Good grief. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done. Right. My family's died in places like this. It's just hard to imagine the courage to come down here every day and dig away at the foundations of where you're standing. It's ridiculous. Oh God, just hit the bottom. And let me get out the cage. Now out the cage. Well, there's even more water running around here. I know in the distance. Hells, what's that? It's just black. Pitch black. Could have sworn I saw a figure there. But I'm now down the bottom. I'm right at the bottom of the shaft. Listen. I've got my hard hat on. And I'm just hoping that I don't need it. Some of the roof areas have got just bits of stone hanging out as if they could fall at any moment. But let me tell you what they used to do down here. At the time of the disasters that occurred here, there were colliers who actually cut the coal. There was about 130 odd of them, and every collier had a couple of hurriers with them, they were called. The hurriers would remove the coal. There were also horse drivers, small... Jesus. Something's just fallen from the ceiling. It sounded something. Problem is I cannot see where I'm going. I'm just literally walking ahead. I know there's nobody else down here. I mean, who'd be waiting a mile underground for you? What the hell was that? I got no idea. I cannot see a thing. But we're coming across to... Oh, hang on. Something at my feet. Oh, that sounds like the thing that fell. Oh, it's a hard hat. The weird thing is, it's warm. It's freezing down here. I'm just going to hang it back up on the hook here. How possible is it for it to... It's nothing. It's impossible for that to fall off there. That's not going to happen. Good God. Well, that's the first risk to my trousers. So I was telling you that out of 130 odd colliers, they had the hurriers. Now, what the hurrier did was remove the coal. And then they had pit ponies and maintenance staff making sure there weren't anything falling. Young boys as young as 9 were down here to open the doors to allow wagons to pass and then close them to make sure that the ventilation was maintained. The air circuit was 3 miles supposed of air that you could breathe. And the draft was created by that furnace I told you about. And it fed with fresh air for about 70 yards from the upcast shaft, heat rising, and you can understand their thought. Everybody knew that this mine was in dangerous... Shh. Just hearing noises behind me now. I'm heading towards the main shaft, and all you can see in front of you is just complete and total blackness. And how did that hat fall off the bloody hook? It's on like a major hook, and it's the stuff inside the hard hat, because they're like old hard hats. It's got like plastic insides, and yet, oh, what the hell's that? The wall is just sodden, as if it's leaking. Now, I was told that if you hit a patch of gas, you would feel giddy, and you'd feel like you want to faint. I'm feeling giddy, and I feel like I want to faint. Let's get out of this. Let's get down the shaft, if I possibly can. Oh, hang on a second, there's like a wooden trolley here. I'm gonna just sit down for a second, get used to this bit before I move on. Hello? Could have sworn I heard a voice. Listen. Listen. It's coming from the lift where I've just been. Listen. It was like a mechanical kind of noise. Did you hear it? Is that a dog? Is it a cat? Listen. Getting something. I'm back on my feet again. Damn it, I want to... What the hell's that? Is that the lift going back up? Hang on. Oh, the lift's gone back up. I don't even know how you summon it. Do you not need somebody to summon it? The lift's gone back up. That's not funny. Oh, God. The lift... What the hell's that? If there's somebody there, that's not funny. Show yourself. Show yourself. Oh, good gracious. I'm hoping that's just in my head. Feeling giddy and faint. That's the words they use for this place. No heart's beating it. 300 miles an hour. Unbelievable. Oh, what the hell was that? And the lift's gone. How do I get it down again? I think if it was here, I'd possibly just get straight on it. Just tell you some more stories outside rather than... I feel like there isn't a lot of air down here. My mouth's full of... Excuse me. I have to spit. Just spat on the ground and my spit's black. They used to call the thing that... Good God, what the hell's that? Whoa! Show yourself. Let me... Whoa. Just seen something at the end of the tunnel. Oh, good gracious. Headed its direction. I don't want to go. Don't want to go. Not at all. Oh, what was that? What the hell was that? Oh, just tripped over something. What was that? Oh, there's a couple of big, like, water jug things. Oh, the channel here is getting very, very narrow. Dripping with water down here too. Can you hear it? Oh, it's dripping on my head. Listen to that. It's like there's a whole stream down here. But getting noises again from the tunnel ahead of me. Oh, what the hell was that? I've just seen a figure walk across directly ahead of me. Oh, good gracious. What the hell is that? Directly ahead of me there's a figure about 100 yards away, and it's just standing like zip. It's gone into the wall. What? That doesn't make any sense. It's where the main branch to the coal face is. Oh, this place has had huge explosions down here. Columns of smoke and debris just burst out of the door above ground. The explosion was so big it broke the winding engine on the cage that brings people down here, and the people that were in the cage at the time saw it and heard it getting disconnected from the rope, and about 18 people in the lift fell almost a mile to their deaths, smashing into pieces on the floor below. And then the second cage went the other way. Ow. Something's just... Ow. What the hell was that? Just felt like somebody... it was probably my imagination. It was as if somebody'd literally kind of shoved me in the chest. Ow. The second cage was blown up from the furnace. It blew people in the cage right the way up to the top, smashed them to pieces at the top, and then the cage fell back down again onto the furnace, tearing it apart. Obviously the rope holding it had gone, and all the people in there were killed too. It was just disaster after disaster. They said that 20-odd victims were found when they got to the bottom, killed by gas. 14 others later died of their injuries. 50 bodies in what they described as various conditions of ghastliness were recovered by the end of the first day. The people who lived above had to be persuaded to come down because there was still fire damp and after damp, which is pretty much pure carbon monoxide. The dead, if they were in one bit, were taken to their homes. Hundreds of others couldn't even be pieced together at the pithead by the local doctors. The stable area had been completely destroyed and burnt. Almost 20 pit ponies were dead. Cooked, in fact. The rescue parties had to work in relays, and 2 or 3 of them ended up sucking in enough gas to kill them. Funnily enough, some of the bodies were found totally unburnt, but damaged by the blast, heads missing, arms missing, legs missing. Others were found just lying on the ground, and it appeared again as if they were sleeping, but that was gas again. The air down here is horrific. It's really... I thought I heard footsteps. Listen. Listen. Can you hear that? I'm sitting down. This is my feet. What the hell's doing that? There's something coming towards me. Jeez, whoa! Hang on. Where's it going? Something came within about 20 feet of me, and then I heard those footsteps, and just like blackness got within about 15 feet of me, and then all of a sudden, almost like water going down a plug hole, it just went back the other way down the shaft towards where getting noises there. Strange noises down here. It's almost as if the mine's actually still working. Anyway, let's head. Where were we with this story as well? Along here is where the pit shaft is actually supposed to be. I think that was me. I think I knocked into a piece of wood that just landed. I think that was me. Oh, that was me. Oh, listen. Did you hear that? Just got a clangy kind of noise. Hello? The walls on each side are just rock and boulders that's held together with rotting wooden joists holding them up. But when, as I say, there's been a number of explosions, but what? Keep hearing noises. How can you hear noises from? I'm a mile below an industrial estate and a few houses. After the explosions, there was recovery attempts, and they would check to see if there was choke damp or... Whoa, hang on. Behind me again, I heard... You know that noise, like when I was close up to it and I said I'd bumped into some wood? Something else has just bumped into some wood. Terrified. I'm popping my pantaloons down here. This isn't funny. Oh, look at... Hang on. Spider juice. That spider was the size of your hand. Oh, God, when you look at the walls, it's crawling with things. Oh, good gracious. Just hit my head. Oh, this isn't funny. Getting some scraping noise from the other end. Stopped again. I'm being played with. It's just, they said it was a quarter of a mile to the main shop. This is just stupid. There's stuff all around me. There's a noise just off to my left-hand side there. Listen. I'm sitting here, I've got a pile of papers in one hand and my microphone in the other. I can't do any of this. What is going on? And so when they came in, they asked for volunteers to come down and start recovering the corpses and the bits of bodies that were left kind of fired around the place. And some of the men refused to go, and the locals were calling them cowards for not wanting to get in. I don't think they were cowards at all. One of them, his name Woodcock, said, I found the air had followed us and turned upon us, and we revolted again. We were sucked backwards and forwards as a consequence of this gas. Listen. I'm hearing like a metallic noise. It's coming from the direction I'm going. Oh, that's not what I wanted to hear. Oh my gracious. I mean, it's right from the beginning. There's things down here. I'm not surprised that the people that work here, when I said I was going to be doing a Halloween special, they said, you've got to come here. You've got to come and see what's lurking here. Oh my God. My stomach. I'm almost bent in two. Oh. Alright. Gonna have to go down on me hungers. Oh. Just give me a second. Don't know whether that's just blind fear. I'm getting noise behind me like moving air. And up ahead, dripping. I can hear dripping from the ceiling. But I can hear like a yeah. Ooh, there's a disgusting smell here. Oh dear. So, with all of the men coming down here to try and remove the bodies, and the fact that there'd been a huge explosion and the furnace had blown up, the pit was very, very hot. Clouds of smoke, burning timbers. The cage was lowered and raised, but it was empty. And it seemed that not everybody had died in the explosion. Some of the people coming down to look for bodies had passed away too. A third explosion, and anybody that was down there had pretty much lost their lives. Tommy was one of the pitmen, and he said this, hang on. I'm really dizzy. Oh, I don't like it. Hang on. I genuinely nearly passed out there. You know when you see all those stars in front of your face? Oh, that's not funny. No, I don't like that at all. Oh, directly behind me, there's a noise. Don't hurt me. I'm just here to tell you a story. Don't hurt me. Oh, God, the stench is unbelievable. Now, Tommy said one shaft had filled up with earth, rubble and rubbish. The other had a wooden scaffold held up by wire ropes, but it had crashed down. Then, on top of that, was the metal cage with body parts just dripping out of it. I remember stepping into something, and when I looked down at my feet with my miner's lamp on my head, I saw that my foot was inside the face of one of my friends, whose body was in pieces at my feet. There was a stench of gas, and I quickly turned my lamp off that I was carrying in case the gas took me too. There were a lot of widows back there in the 1800s, and the widows would receive 10 shillings a week, 5 shillings from the government, 5 shillings from the miners' union, was the equivalent of about 60 quid in modern parlance. That's all they got a week. She also got 2 shillings and sixpence, which is 25p, for every child under the age of 13. And if she remarried, she'd get a bonus of £20. Now, £20 back then is the equivalent of about £2,300. But all of her other benefits would cease. But it was a launch for her with her new husband for a new life. The bodies continued to be recovered, And for every 10 bodies that they brought out, somebody else would die. They tried to find out what was causing it. It was gas. It was explosive gas. There's no other word of explaining it. And in local cemeteries, you see individual bodies, but you also see mounds. A lot of mounds where literally dozens of bodies that couldn't be identified or put back together were just placed into the ground together. At the very beginning they thought that only 1 or 2 people had died, and then they thought, oh, there's about 20. Then they thought, oh, maybe it's 50 or 70. The people outside thinking these are the kind of things that you can almost justify for the huge profits that they were making. However, in total, not just in one explosion, but this pit, 478 people died. Ooh, listen to that. Just above my head, as if somebody's knocking on the roof. Oh, and there's strange kind of fungus growing down in... Listen. I'm hearing people talking down one end behind me. I'm hearing thumping directly ahead of me. Jesus! That was 50 yards ahead of me. And that's the direction I'm supposed to be walking. Oh my God. It's like I'm being stalked down here. And what's this? Something lying across the air. I don't know what that is. Like a wooden kind of... There's wooden trolleys to my left-hand side. These big strapping things with wheels. At the present moment you can see spiders' webs covering pretty much all of it. But scary. God, it's scary down here. I've got to still get to the coalface. They've said that people have got their hands trapped in some of the machinery down here, and instead of damaging the machine, they would just cut the man's hand off rather than damage a machine that's worth more than a year's worth of work from some of these miners. The stories, I'm going to read a little bit out of a newspaper here. Mine workers wearing pumped air breathing equipment similar to that used in diving bells entered the colliery to recover bodies. The first they found was a man's legless corpse. His lower body had been torn away. The dead man's insurance company had come under attack because it said it would not honour his £1,000 life insurance policy. That's the equivalent of $1 million in modern day parlance. At the pit face, there were women and children waiting for their men to come out, hoping and praying that they hadn't been killed. And the people down there, even those wearing kind of rigged oxygen equipment, were suffering. They were coming up, and many of them would have to wait for months without any pay coming in. You can imagine them just dropping everything, the washing or the cooking or whatever they were doing, to come to a place like this to see what their ouch, damn it, to see what their whether their husbands were alive or dead. Terrified. I'm about 40 yards from the front, and the ceiling's dropped another foot or so. Listen. Getting noise again. Oh dear. You know, the people who owned places like this, they didn't care if there was an explosion. It was a price they would pay. Well, they wouldn't, but the miners would pay that price. And I have to say that it's a terrifying thing. There's a list of monuments and various churches around here listing the hundreds upon hundreds of men who lost their lives here. And this was commonplace across pretty much all of the pit workings in all directions. Little explosions, big explosions. What they said was that when there was an explosion, it would turn the sky dark grey, depositing a deathly residue that was described... Oh, whoa, listen. This is where I'm going. What the hell's that? Do you hear that? That's like it was like one of those trolleys moving. About 150 yards back where I've just been. Sound like a trolley moving. What? Unbelievable. What the hell's going on? I'm hearing the sound almost like cars moving, but you can't when you're this far. When you're this far below ground. Unless it's something else moving around down here. Just kind of... Unless the shaft doors are open and you can hear out into the street, because you could for the first 100 or 50 yards. They say it was 400 and odd people that died here. But occasionally little children would go missing down here. Some said that they were being hurt by some of the supervisors taking advantage of small children, something that sadly still happens to this day. But, right, let's get to the pit face. Here it is. That's a coal, and there's about... I'm about 5'10". It's probably 4 feet of black here, coal, to be dug out. About 5 feet. At the time when the pit was happening and they were hacking away and I had those hurriers to carry the coal out, it was 8 foot thick in all directions. But so here I am. This is where people gave their life to old King Coal, right here. Listen. Now, what the hell was that? I'm still hearing little bits. Listen. Was that one of those trolleys? Is it rolling towards me? You cannot move them without there's coal on them and hundreds of spiders. That sounded like the trolley was coming, because there's a track beneath my feet here. Oh. God gracious. This isn't funny. Alan Robson, the Nightowls, I know we got to take a break. I'll be back after this.
Views of the coal mine in North Wales depict the scene of the terrible pit disaster involving such tragic loss of life. A big explosion in the Gresford colliery near Wrexham in the early hours of the morning occurred when 400 men were working below. Of these, 200 men were able to make their escape to the surface at once, but the remainder were trapped. And it is from these victims that the ghastly death roll is composed. The exact figures cannot yet be accurately computed, but the scene at the pit head, as news is anxiously awaited, tells its own story. The deepest sympathy is extended to the bereaved from the whole country.
Alan Robson with you now. It's our... Do you hear that? There's so much going on down here. It's louder than on the street. And there's water beneath my feet here. Soaking. Nasty. I found a little side tunnel that just comes off to one side. Huh? I've just... Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. Either some really strong breeze, and where's the breeze going to come from down here, has just gone over my left hand, and if it wasn't a breeze, something really cold, I mean ice cold, has just touched me. I'm just heading off down this separate seam. They told me not to, but I think I can find my way back, if I possibly can. Oh, that's weird. When I breathe, it's almost like it's taking shape or something. What the hell? It's staying around like smoke. Oh, it's spitting. I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's spinning it. It's almost like somebody's blowing it back in my face. Whoa! Full on breath. Not pleasant. Horrible smell, but somebody's just blowing it, so like breeze. Major breeze going on. Which way did I come? Did I come down here? Oh God, I think that's just the way I come. I've turned around. I don't want to go too far away. Where's that? Where's the cold face? Oh! Just heard a noise. Oh, listen to that. Did you hear it? Just heard a bit of a clang. I think I'm a bit lost. I'll try. I just turned around. You can it? I mean, it's just a straight line, isn't it? How many thousands of people over 200 years of coal mining have walked down here, and all of those ones that lost their lives, the ones that we know lost their lives, the ones that we have no idea about, and some of them apparently were just walled up. If somebody died that was like a traveller or didn't have any family about, or sometimes if a child died, they'd just stick them under some rubble and press on, chuck them out like some of the rocks that weren't cool. That's the thing. Amazing. I'm still not sure where I am. It's just black, but in the middle of the black, you can almost hear something else. Is it? Listen. Did you hear coughing? I'm sure I could hear coughing. Wouldn't surprise me, but I feel like a bloody good cough too. There's stuff on my lungs, I can feel them. Directly behind me, the door is shut. I've just heard some clanging in the distance too. And yet, here I am. Definitely heard a door shut behind me. Could that have been the lift? I'm hearing all kinds of clanging. There's something down here. There's a lot down here. The spirits of the dead. I'm feeling it. Oh, got another pain in my stomach again. And you can imagine if your stomach's not used to sucking in all this dust, because when you blow out, you see the dust in the air, and oh, good gracious, the stomach's hurting. Oh, my stomach. Oh. What the hell was that? Listen. You know where that noise came from? There's a black cloud. Oh, what was that? Just seen a little burst of light on my left-hand side. That was clear as day. I'm hearing noises as well, like machine noises. I saw a little glimpse of light. Listen, it sounds like a horse noise. It sounds like clip-clopping in the distance. Listen. I'm alone down here, and this place is... just seeing a bit more light flashing there. Bizarre. It's almost like down here it's another flash of light. What can give you light in the pitch blackness? Oh, jeepers, there's another swoosh of air that's just rolled down past me. I can't believe how it is. It just whoosh. And you feel the air moving past you at a rate of knots. Feels like something's touching my hat. I can hear it. I don't know whether you can. Whoa. Something's... Listen, I'm not moving. But I'm hearing stuff. Terrifying. Oh, that felt like somebody touching my cheek. Oh, that wasn't nice. But it was kind. Thank you. Didn't hurt me. Didn't hurt me. Thank you. Just seen a glimpse of light again down here. Oh, I don't recognise where I am now. This leads to the place that... oh, hello. That leads down to the face. I've found it again. And which is the way out from here? So, oh, dripping. Makes you wonder. You know, there's huge piles of rocks on the floor here. Just makes you wonder whether there's the bones of a child behind them. And very occasionally you come to the wall and there's a bit that looks like it's been almost plastered. Makes you wonder if these are the places where they've just bundled the dead bodies of those that didn't have any family. Whoa. Yeah, down here. There's the coal face directly ahead of me. In the distance. Oh. Cobweb hanging. Big spider on it. Oh, on the floor. Big. Oh, God gracious, there's half a dozen of them. Oh, there's another one. Everywhere you walk, there's slugs on the wall sucking into the liquid that's running along the side. This is Not remotely funny. This is one of the nastiest things I've ever done. Listen, in the distance, can you hear it? It almost sounds like the lift. Oh, please let the lift be coming back. I'm about a good quarter of a mile away from it. But, I might actually try and head in that direction as we speak. See what we can get. I'm going to head back. Was it... Oh, hang on. Was it to the left? Or was it to the right? I'll try the right. It's along here somewhere. I found the face. I just can't find the route to the way out. This isn't the way. Every tunnel looks the same when you're down here. The ceiling, just if you put the head torch on the ceiling, there's just colonies of black people. Oh, good God, that was... I'm hearing a woman's voice. Did you get that? There's something moving stuff around. But I got a woman's voice. Why would a woman be down here? The only story of a woman down here was when they asked for volunteers to come down to help pick up the bodies. One of the wives apparently came down and was instantly overcome with gas and died. I could hear people talking at a distance. Hearing footsteps too. I have to head back. Don't know whether it's along here, but do you know when you feel like you're heading into something that you shouldn't be? Did you hear that? There's a man's voice down here. I heard a woman's voice before. I'm hearing a man's voice now. And can't imagine. I can't make out what they're saying, could you? But we're getting voices now for the first time. Proper voices that we can actually hear. Don't know where the female voice came from, but I did hear it. Listen to that. Oh my good gracious. I'm getting a bit of a scrapey noise in the distance. When I walked past those trolleys, I mean, they were fused. They were completely rusted and frozen to the spot. There's no way those tubs are going to move, and it had a load of rock on it, you know, like coal, as if ready to head out there and get treated to be then sold to families and taken out to. I didn't like the sound of that. So I'm moving away to I'm sure that my breath's doing that coily thing again. I can't believe. I was sure that the lift shaft was along here, but I can't see it at all. Oh, blimey, there's a locked gate here. Can I get past it? Yes, I can. I'll squeeze. That one, it's narrow. Oh, well, this can't be the right way, surely. Unless it rejoins. What's that? I don't know. they've not marked on it where there's any shafts or anything there. There's a big scorch mark on the wall here where it looks like it's burnt the lights out. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, what's going on? Hang on. Where am I? I'm getting lost. Oh no. Where am I? Oh, good God, the ceiling is just dripping. It's completely soaked. It's just got beads of water on it. And they're dripping into my face. I hate this. It's horrible. Oh, no. What the hell is it? I don't know which way I'm going. Oh. It's terrifying. Can't see anything. Oh, there's a bright light in front of me. Oh no! I'm trying to text somebody because I'm lost. That was my phone just telling me that my battery's completely zero. Hello? Oh, I am so far underground here. Help! If you can hear me outside, Tony, I'm not kidding, this isn't funny. I'm in an area where the echo is ridiculous. Hello? Oh, you can tell. Oh, what the hell is this? Oh, I can't. Oh, it's pitch black. It's completely. Even with my torch, I can't see. I can't see anything. Even with my torch. What's going on? Oh, God. There's this thing growing out the wall. It's orange and it's horrible. How can I not see with a torch on? Please. Oh, it's about a foot of water past here. I'm going to have to try and go back. Oh, the wall's covered with running white, like something. Hang on. This is. Oh, hang on. Which is it? The left-hand one, or is it the right-hand one? We are in a strange place here. It's listen, getting voices again. Getting voices. There's definitely voices in here. And this is the place on the floor. There's a rail where the trains would carry and apparently sometimes some of the young boys would crush their fingers in between them and have to have hands and arms and legs amputated. This isn't funny. I would swear. Do I turn back? Do I go back this way? I don't know which way we're going. This is just. I don't know what to do. But they know I'm down here. Hello? Hello? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? There was like a whisper. Hello? Getting footsteps. I kept hearing kind of like a breathing thing. Hello? Is anybody there? What the hell's that? It's like a kind of a sort of noise. Hello? Getting a glimpse of light. There's water dripping down from the ceiling. Obviously the walls here have been patched up, but the wood joists are a lot worse along here than they were in the main part of the tunnel. Don't know whether you've realised how sonorous and echoey this particular place is, but I'm getting the odd noise. Oh my goodness. Seeing some light. Just seen the most ugly thing. The echo in this. Right, I've got another choice to make. Do I go left or do I go right? I've got no idea, but I've been hearing the odd noise. Have you seen the echo in it? Right, I'm going to have to... I'm a long way away from where I need to be. Help! 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 Is anybody there? Oh God, spiders. Don't want the spiders to come out. Come on. Right. Put a march on. Come on. Oh. Gotta find that. Oh, here's that squeezy bit. Hang on. Oh. Hang on. What? I got through here quite easily though last time. Oh, what the hell? Oh. Can I put on weight? I've been walking for miles. Oh, come on. Is this the way? Oh, God, that's another tunnel. Come on! Come on! For heaven's sake, to the right, we take a... Listen. Getting noises ahead. Noises coming. Directly ahead of me, there's like a bright light. I can see it clearly. Oh, how can that be? There's some more markings on the wall where there's been an explosion and there's more heaps of rubble about where people have been. It wasn't a bright light, it was like a aluminium. Oh, listen, I've got a noise there. Listen, is that a trolley again? Sounds like a trolley. Something's moving again. But I'm still lost. I don't want to join the souls down here. Absolute respect to you and respect to anybody who's been a coal miner. If you've got coal miners in your family, give them the utmost respect, because this is just ridiculously scary down here. If you are working and there was stuff going on, even just the people that have to maintain these places, give them a heap of respect, because this is beyond common sense to come down to a place like this. They've maintained it for, hang on. My shoulder. I just felt a dig right in my shoulder blade at the back. It's made me look around. I can't see anything, but it's so black down here you can't see anything. I had enough. I want to get out. I've had enough. I've had enough. I don't want any more. I'm done. I'm cooked. Oh, listen. It's in the direction I'm going to. You kind of get around these small explosion walls, these firewall things. A little bit of blue light. What is that? Please don't let that be fire damp or after damp or any of these other... Oh, good God, just above my head there's a hole. Looks like a brick could easily fall down there. And there's something down here that's just threatening. Just threatening. No more. I've had enough. Get me back to whatever's down here. Okay, happy. I've shared a little bit of time with you. Thank you very much. No more, please. I've had enough. That's it. A quarter of a mile, but I've now got to walk past where that big noise happened. I ran the opposite direction. I'm going to go around to where it is. I can still see the swirl of... Oh, there it is. The big swirl of blackness that I've got to go through. The puddles are getting deeper underfoot, and that's it. Oh, here we are. Here's the oh God, the lift's down as well. Listen behind me. Did you hear that? The lift. I'm right beside the lift. Listen. Oh, right. Take me up, get me out of here, take me up, come on. And we're going up out of the darkness, leaving everything down there exactly where it should be. These places are scarred. And for all of those people that doubted, the miners that said that they'd seen things down here, and the guys that made, oh look, oh, it just feels good, you can, the air, soak that in. Oh, that's so much better. Oh, for all those people that have said that they've seen stuff and nobody's believed them, I absolutely believe you. I've seen stuff down here. I've seen figures, I've heard voices, I've heard noises. I hope you picked some stuff up at home. I hope it's not just me. We're getting up. Oh, and the air's getting better every step we get. Getting better. Oh, nice and slow. We're coming up to the surface. I got a right sweat on. Feel sick. I'm scared rigid. Oh, I feel dizzy. I'm rolling around. I am staggering. I've got about 200 to 300 yards. And I'm done. I'm swaying a bit from side to side. Can't believe it. Nearly there. I've never felt so completely tired in all my life. Past those wooden things that I came across at the very beginning. And there is the door. The door's ahead of me. I'm completely cooked. Let me get outside. I am completely and utterly finished. Let me try the door.
welcome back. I think you need to just take a breath. Take a few breaths, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, God. I'm never ever going in a coal mine again. Ever. Enough. I'm out. Main road. Not far away. You can hear it. Traffic in it. Oh, I could be sick again. Oh, God. It's not attractive. There's all kinds going on down there. All kinds. There was noises. There was lights, strange lights where they shouldn't be. There was absolutely all kinds going on, and all of the time you listen. I don't know whether you heard that, but something.
It's like something banging on the door
to try and get out, and I've just locked it. I couldn't open it now if I wanted to. That's just. Hang on, I need to sit down somewhere. Hang on a sec. There's a thing at the bottom I can sit on. You don't know how reassuring it is to just see a car when you're in a place like that. Oh, that's better. I'm now sitting down and I'm out of there. Oh, God gracious. Now, if you haven't heard anything on tonight's show, I apologise, but I've been doing my best to pick anything up. They said you're probably going to be in there for about 15 to 20 minutes and then you're going to want to get out. That's true. I don't know how long I managed to stay in there. I think it was closer to an hour and a half maybe. But I don't know how much I managed, but I hope you've... And I'm sorry for being sick. I feel really stupid now. I'm really sorry. Oh dear. Just feels like your whole stomach's been ripped out. And once again, it just pays tribute to all of those people that work down the mine, who've ever been down there and had to put up with, because they're down here every day hacking away at a coal face. It's impossible to imagine what they had to put up with. I am going to possibly throw up again, but before I do, thank you for joining us on this tribute to those people that carved out old King Coal over the years.
I think at the end of the road, they've made the right and proper decision that we should have to entomb these people, or the people that's been lost in the disaster.